Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to cover. We want to cover the 2028 elections. We got to talk about the 2026 elections, too. Nancy Pelosi in the mix. Sheriff Mack going to Washington State. We'll talk about that. I'll be there as well. CSPOA.org for details. There's an event the 9th and 10th of January 2026. So in about 10 days, we're headed there, ladies and gentlemen. Would love to see you there as well. A press conference midday, Friday the 9th. An incredible public rally that night, a training for public officials, a private training Saturday. Going to be an incredible event. Would love to see you there, CSPOA.org. We'll also talk about President Trump has significantly changed the nation. We'll get into that as well. A lot to cover, very little time. Let's say that for sure, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here's the headline. Early 2028, GOP odds favor J.D. Vance. But race is far from set, is what I would say. Erica Kirk at TPUSA endorsed J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance went and spoke at the event on Sunday. And they say he played the part of healer. He tried to bring everybody together. Good for him for doing that. Early polling and prediction markets show J.D. Vance literally dominating the still forming 2028 GOP whatever you want to call it, field or whatever else. They say that he has a projected 48% chance of winning the nominee. Marco Rubio, believe it or not, is next in line, and he trails at 12%. No other contender even tops 5% at this point. It's far too early to draw firm conclusions, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. And no candidates have officially even announced their candidacy for president. The field remains fluid for sure. Okay, speculation, though, is already emerging about this thing in terms of the general election. We'll get to that. But first, Sheriff, what do you say to this?
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are you ready?
I'll be ready.
Okay. If you could wave your magic wand and a realistic way and for a realistic choice, who would you want running for president of the United States?
Running or the nominee?
Well, yeah, the nominee.
All right. I'd like the nominee to be, probably Dr. Scott Bradley is who I'd pick because I think he's the most
No. I said realistic.
Oh, realistic. All right. So we can't even pick our good friend who.
No, he's not going to run. He's probably not going to run. But if he did,
right, what about the guy? What about the guy from Alabama? He wouldn't take down the 10 Commandments guy.
Judge Roy Moore.
Yeah, is that realistic?
Close, because I think he's tried to run for higher office before.
Yeah, all right. So I might pick a guy like that.
No,
if we're going to be realistic, who are the choices that I've got then? If we're going to be realistic,
anybody,
Vance, Marco Rubio?
Anybody that's a governor or a member of the United States Congress right now.
I would probably say Mike Lee would be one that I would go for the most, maybe a Rand Paul. Personally, one of the people that I think, and he's not a governor and he's not a senator or anything like that, but I personally believe that Ben Carson, who did speak at the TPUSA conference and gave a great speech there as well, I think Ben Carson's a genuinely good, honest, moral, wise person. I really do.
I could go for Ben Carson. I could go for Alan Keyes, but maybe he's too old now. I don't know. But,
I could go for Judge Roy Moore. I could go for Mike Lee. I don't think Mike Lee's perfect, but I think he's a genuinely honest, good person that would do a good job too. I think Sheriff Richard Mack would be a great president, but again, we're not talking realistic, right?
Well, you weren't that time.
And people are
Mike Lee is definitely
Trump.
Realistic. Mike Lee is a U.S. senator and has been. And,
yes.
And he is a good man.
And he's even been considered for the Supreme Court too, right? So.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know who I would pick on the realistic side. I don't think there's a lot of great realistic constitutional candidates. Ron Paul would be great, but again, he's ran too many times and he's way too old. I don't think that's a fit, realistically speaking.
No.
I think Rand is good, but I don't think he's a Ron. I mean, I don't think he's as true blue as a Ron is, but he's better than most. Believe it or not, I would consider Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know how realistic that is. He's in the House, and I mean, Trump hates him, so Trump wants to get rid of him. So I don't know how that goes, but that might be realistic. I don't like these candidates that are just, I don't know. For example, let's just take Shaquille O'Neal to make a point. Shaquille O'Neal is well-known, famous person and all that. He was a honorary doctorate and all that kind of stuff. Now he serves with the sheriff's police office or sheriff's office. So that's, maybe that's realistic. I don't know where these people fall on the Constitution is part of the problem. Do you think J.D. Vance is the guy?
He would be my number one choice, but I think he's a pretty good guy. What I've heard from him thus far, since he's been vice president while he was running, I think he's very measured. I think he speaks well, and he's pro-life and seems to be a good Christian man. And so I wouldn't have too much of a problem with him.
What's that other guy from Florida? No, he's from
Ron DeSantis?
Maybe he's from Texas. Ron DeSantis from Florida might be an option.
Yeah. Are you thinking? You're not thinking of Governor Abbott, are you? Or Ted Cruz?
No. Ted Cruz, maybe that's the one I was thinking of. Maybe a Ted Cruz. See, the problem is some of these people in my mind aren't constitutionally qualified to serve.
Yeah, it depends on where Ted Cruz was born.
Well, it depends on where they were. It depends on where they were born. It also depends on several other issues, right? For example, where their father, whether their father was a citizen. Usually the citizenship follows the father.
Right. Well, but that doesn't disqualify him. If he was born in America, then that doesn't disqualify him where his dad was born.
Yeah, that's where the debate comes. Usually they say that the qualification for president follows the dad's citizenship and his allegiance, and so it gets complicated because the Constitution doesn't specify much of the detail.
Well, right.
But many people believe so. It's a complicated topic.
Right.
You could have some rock star like Ted Nugent run.
Yeah. Well, he would have a hard time in public speaking.
Because he'd just let her rip like Donald, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. But I really like Ted, and I like his brashness, and sometimes he makes me laugh with some of his profanity. But at the same time, yeah, he would have to calm that down. Boy, if he was the nominee, I would be really for that.
So, it's a hard discussion, right? Because you don't know who and what and all that kind of stuff. It's very difficult because I don't really think that the caliber of the people that would obey the Constitution and be measured and get us all out of wars and stuff like that, there's just not very many people.
Can you think of a single Democrat that you would support or could in any way?
That's alive right now?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I can't either.
Now, there might be some libertarians I would consider.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What about Lou Rockwell?
Lou Rockwell.
Yeah. Isn't he a big libertarian guy?
Yeah.
So the problem is you start getting people that they don't have a household name. The interesting thing is the media can make a household name out of anybody tomorrow if they choose. I mean, think about Barack Obama. We didn't have a clue who he was. Next thing you know, the guy's a senator and then president before you can even blink an eye, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And same thing with J.D. Vance. How much do you know about J.D. Vance till Trump picked him?
You didn't know him hardly at all. I knew of him and that he was a senator from Ohio, but he really didn't. He wasn't in the press much, and he wasn't making.
He didn't make any waves like a Thomas Massey standing up for the Constitution or for liberty or for freedom or anything else, right?
But
so that's what I mean. Is it's hard to pick people that are on the national stage that we can think of. Any females that you think? I mean, at some point we're going to end up with a female president, probably, whether you think that's a good idea or not, right?
Yeah, I don't care what sex anybody is. I care if they support the Constitution and stand for the principles of freedom. There was a time, obviously, that it would have never been acceptable for a woman to be president, but I don't feel that way now. Again, do they support the principles of freedom and the principles of the Constitution, and will they stand and die for those principles and that's me. In other words, you got to be a diehard supporter of the principles of liberty that America was founded upon, and that's the person I will support. I don't care what color, I don't care what sex, I don't care what race, I don't care what religion. I would love for some of the mega pastors in this country to run for president. I think we need somebody outside of Washington, D.C. and outside politics.
You got that right. So now you got to talk about, hey, what about an Elon Musk and some of those kind of people? We'll talk more in seconds, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot to cover with this thing because we haven't even hit the 2026 midterms yet, and we're already suggesting that we've got a likely nominee for president for 28. Who will he go against in the general election? We'll talk about it at Liberty Roundtable Live.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Can a nation conceived in liberty carry its head high if it denies protection to the youngest and most vulnerable of its citizens? Can a country founded on God-given rights continue to thrive without understanding that life is a precious gift from our Creator? As a physician, I have looked into the eyes of 1-pound babies. I have cradled their small bodies in the palm of one hand. I defy those who are careless, who would disregard life and look at these tiny little miracles and say, we're not going to protect that. But I believe there will come a time when we are all judged on whether or not we took a stand in defense of all life from the moment of conception until our last natural breath. One thing I promise you, I will always take a stand for life.
One of the interesting things I find about this battle is that the Republicans are already talking about the 2028 election cycle, and they think J.D. Vance has already got the nomination. I think it's way too early to tell, and when someone's surging, hey, man, they can surge way in advance and then melt down and be a nobody. So be very careful with this speculation. But I find this also interesting. They say, hey, for the general election, it's probably going to be J.D. Vance against Gavin Newsom. Now you think, no, Gavin Newsom's, whatever you want to say, bad goods or whatever you want to say. He's got too much baggage. I don't think so. They can do a 60-minute interview and turn Bill Clinton into a rock star, even though he's basically an alleged rapist, kind of thing. So they can make anybody a rock star that they choose to, Sheriff. Do you think it'll be J.D. Vance against Gavin Newsom?
That sounds pretty likely at this point, yes. Newsom comes across a lot better than Kamala Harris. And what I find astonishing is that Kamala is still making the rounds to run for president. And it's astonishing to me that anybody could vote for this person. First of all, her background. People want to talk about the immorality accusations towards Trump and some other politicians. This lady makes them all. She dwarfs all of them. How she slept her way to the top, and that's why she has such a hard time, because she always used her body to get places in politics.
That's one thing that was fascinating to me. How come no one really laid out her? I don't know what you want to call it. Notches in her lipstick case or whatever you want to say of conquests. They did that for Trump, and they've done that for, all kinds of people. They never did that for Kamala, though. How come?
It was brought up a little bit, but just extremely a little bit. And
Yeah.
but that she had an affair with Willie Brown. Okay, that was huge because he gave her big start. And yes, she was having an affair, and it wasn't the only one. And Montel Williams and she dated way back when, even and he was, and then he promoted her, but she was a floozy, no question about it. But then you get her horrible interviews and her stupid, idiotic comments that leaves people wondering how she could be even on the stage, and how she interviewed who was the famous Fox News guy that interviewed her. He's real quiet, mild mannered. He's like Clark Kent. And anyway, she was interviewing with him on Fox, and she goes, "Listen, you and I both know what I'm talking about." And he said, "No, I don't. I don't know what you're talking about." And that was one of the greatest lines ever because none of us did. And she obviously didn't.
But so, this is how what we do in America is we reward, it seems like, the person that's the least really capable person to the top. And then what we do is we say, hey, if you're from outside of government, you don't have the qualifications. So they even mocked Trump and said he didn't have the qualifications. But see, they make it sound like Kamala Harris has all the qualifications. And so as you mentioned before the pause, hey, you want to see somebody run from outside. What about an Elon Musk?
I would actually love Elon Musk to run because he owes nobody anything. And I think he's got a very cool head on him. I think he's extremely intelligent, and he understands working with government, and he has. But the things he was saying when he was in DOGE, I totally loved what he was saying. I don't.
Now many say that Elon Musk wouldn't be constitutionally qualified to serve, though.
Oh, wasn't he not born here?
I don't think so.
No, I'd have to check that. Let me check it right now.
Very interesting. I don't know who would pick. I can't think of a good single constitutional female that is realistic, and I can't think of a lot of candidates that are even realistic.
The Siri said he was born in Pretoria, Pretoria. I've never heard of that.
Where's that at? Yeah,
I have no idea.
So anyway, I'm not downing Musk. I think he's done a lot of good. I think he's an incredibly intelligent man.
Oh, it's South Africa.
Some people are saying Joe Rogan should run. What do you say to that?
That's again another Ted Nugent one,
or a Glenn Beck, or somebody like that.
Now, and Glenn Beck and I have a kind of a negative history, but I would support him for president. So
well, there you go, Glenn. A big shout out to you, buddy. Sheriff Richard Max, ready to support you to run for president. The problem is that again, we don't know even who the field is going to have even put their name in the ring, if you will, at this point.
And that's the
problem.
This is going to depend a lot on the midterms, and the 26 midterms right now. I believe they're going to be horrible for President Trump, and it could be that they get enough people in Congress that they could impeach him again.
Very possible, very likely. They're also talking about impeaching Pam Bondi, too.
Well, yeah. And I saw her interview. She was being attacked by Adam Schiff, and she didn't answer the questions. And so he went through the list, and he said, "These are the questions you have refused to answer." And so he went through those, and I thought he was really on point, and I thought he really made her look silly. She kept trying to interrupt him and attack him. Are you going to apologize to President Trump for all your lies? He goes, don't interrupt me. It's my turn right now, And she tried to get to him, and she never did. And
the problem is, why is she out doing so many TV shows with the enemy press in the first place, Sheriff?
Well, good point. And I just would love to see when Adam Schiff, though, is going to be held accountable. He has never been held accountable, even when he ran for Senate.
And we just hear new scandals too. Joe Biden was involved in more and more illegal payments and this and that. I'm sick of Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and all these mainstream press people. All they do every day is tell you about a new scandal, but none of the scandals have accountability to them.
No, well, and look, and I keep forgetting his name. Is it Crimer, who is the oversight chairman of the United States Congress, House of Representatives, and he's been crying for about 2 years about the checking accounts that are owned by the Biden family, and he said that we're going to expose all of this, and then all of a sudden that's just gone.
Well, and then Bill and Hillary Clinton are asked to testify before Congress, and they literally refuse to do it. And then we say we're going to take action for them refusing to do it. Well, hey, Steve Bannon went to jail over that. I think wrongfully so. But, okay, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. When is Bill and Hill going to go to the clink?
Yeah, they should have already. And
so that's what I mean. We don't do anything. And so whatever president I would back would be somebody who I believe would actually do something. And I really thought Trump would do that, and now I've been disappointed. I don't see any real action. Do you?
I mean, so Pam Bondi has gone after John Bolton, and compare that to the accusations against the Biden family and some of the Biden administration. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And
it does if you think they're all deep state and working together. It makes total sense.
Yeah, but I don't buy into that. I don't believe anything Trump has done is the way he's been attacked. I mean, look at all the charges. Look at all the assassination attempts. The deep state has been going after him like crazy, and yet people are part of it. And I don't believe that he is. I believe he is constitutionally not inclined. He doesn't know the Constitution very well. But what is he doing? He's going along with what has been done in Washington for 100 years. And he's going along with it. And I have another question about that. If they declared war on drugs and the drug traffickers, back 50, 60 years ago, did Congress give their approval at that time for the president to use the military to go after drug traffickers or drug traffic? And if he did, he's not outside that. But
well, that's the question. Can they give this carte blanche authority just to, it's kind of like, hey, we're in the state of emergency. There's no such thing.
And I don't think they can.
I don't think they can do that. Even if they did, it's pretend legislation because they don't have the authority. They don't have the authority to delegate their authority to somebody else. We delegated authority to them, right?
And was it just the president saying we're declaring war on drugs as a political statement instead of a constitutional request from Congress for authorization?
Yeah. All right. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi is in the news. Former speaker predicts Democrats will take back the House next year, meaning midterm elections 2026.
Of course she did.
I sadly think she might be right, though.
Anytime she's right, it's bad for America.
Amen to that.
Yeah. No
but
question.
Look, think about it this way, Sheriff. What have the Republicans done that's solid that they can run on for 26?
No, but they haven't even gotten solid into what could anyone be thinking, the media, the voters, that they could actually vote for the party who brought us the cartels, the international terrorists, the human traffickers.
I got it, but now what you're running on is not what we've accomplished. We're just saying we're better than the bad guys.
Exactly.
That's not a good thing to run on, even though it's correct, right? Mm-hmm. The better thing to run on is we've accomplished all these things for the country. Trump has a lot he can run on, but Congress doesn't have much to run on, and the midterms aren't about the president.
Yeah.
All right, hang tight. When we come back, Sheriff Matt going to Washington State. We'll talk about that. And then I want to talk about Shaquille O'Neal. He's working for a sheriff's office. I think it's pretty cool. Hang tight. We'll talk about that. You're watching the one and only hard-hitting Liberty Roundtable Live. Hey, join us at our conference, cspoa.org.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says investigators from her agency are on the job in Minnesota. Writing on X, she says they're conducting a massive investigation on child care and other rampant fraud. Meanwhile, Minnesota Republicans are demanding the resignation of Democrat Governor Tim Walz. You'll hear no complaints from New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell about President Trump's National Guard deployments to her city. She says the extra security is welcome during New Year's celebrations. Colin Arnold is the city's emergency preparedness chief. He says the Guard members will be joining an army of police officers.
It appears that we're going to have close to 800 law enforcement downtown and in the French Quarter, and I think that that's going to be outstanding. You're going to see an incredible visual presence in the French Quarter and throughout downtown over the rest of this week.
A year ago, an attack on Bourbon Street claimed 14 lives. President Trump is serving notice on Iran.
As he welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu for talks in Florida, the president warned Iran against reconstituting its nuclear program. He said the U.S. military would strike Iran hard if it attempts to rebuild that program. The president has insisted that Tehran's nuclear capabilities were obliterated after military strikes back in June. But Israeli officials have expressed concern about Iran rebuilding its long-range missile capability. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The president is warning Hamas of dire consequences if it doesn't lay down its arms, as it promised to do under Phase 2 of the Gaza peace accord. 2 more alleged narco-terrorists have been killed in an attack on their boat by the U.S. military in the Eastern Pacific. On Wall Street, Dow futures are down 18 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
VA education benefits are available to those who qualify. At Audion Hearing, our mission is simple: to make better hearing affordable for everyone. We're proud to offer high-quality, rechargeable hearing aids starting at just $98. Clear, comfortable, and ready to use right out of the box. And here's a study worth hearing. Research shows that wearing hearing aids can reduce your risk of dementia by up to 61%. Join over 1 million happy customers and hear the difference today by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character, where educating both hearts and minds brings about academic excellence. There is a school in American Fork where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. Based on LDS principles and a love of country, now in our 39th year, American Heritage School is accepting fall enrollment for kindergarten through high school. What would you do for your child? Give them an education that will prepare them for life. Located east of the temple in American Fork, American Heritage School is a remarkable and affordable alternative. Visit us, find us online, or in the Yellow Pages. American Heritage School in American Fork.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to LocalHoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at LocalHoneyman.com.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
All right, yours truly, the Good Sheriff, breaking down the news the networks refuse to use just for you. Now, they say Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Well, Sheriff Mack goes to Washington, but we're talking about Sheriff Richard Mack. We're talking about Washington State, not D.C. The Seattle area outside Tacoma, we're having an event January 9th and 10th, and we're going to defend the office of the sheriff. Sheriff?
Yeah, I really like that movie title, Mr. Mack Goes to Washington. And obviously, we're not talking about Jimmy Stewart, Mr. Smith going to Washington, where he went to Washington, D.C. and found out the deep state was alive and well back then. And the deep state tried to destroy him, even kill him if they could, and killing kids that were out and doing flyers for him. And so it shows the corruption that we've been fighting for an extremely long time, but we've been fighting the secret combinations, which is the greatest abomination in the sight of the Lord. And some people have actually unwittingly, sometimes knowingly, but unwittingly supporting these secret combinations because they come across as friendly and they come across as normal people a lot of times. But their deeds are there and very visible, especially historically, these deeds are there. And so people that now support these politicians that are part of all of this the greatest evil ever to confront mankind or humankind, if that fits everybody's political correctness better. But I just am so afraid of what's happening and afraid. I fear, Sam, for my grandchildren and what they're going to be facing in, I think, a very short time.
Well, I fear what we're going to be facing, Sheriff, before our grandkids face it. You and I might go to jail in the latter, the twilight of our lives kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, but you're a lot younger than I am. So I don't, seriously, I mean, how much time do I have left? And I hope
a good decade or more. Come on,
a good 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, yep.
Maybe. Probably with my heart condition.
Well, you just had your birthday, so what are you, 74 now?
I'm 73.
Oh, shoot. All right. I shouldn't
just turned 73 3 days ago.
So 10 years would put you at 83. You'd be a little older than President Trump.
Yeah, and the average lifespan is what for all humans is 76, I think. So
yeah, for men it's more like 76 in America and 80 for women, something like that.
Something like that. So yeah, so both my parents lived to be 89, but I really do. I look at the horrible things going on and that have to happen. Like what is going to absolutely, irrefutably take place with our economy. Rand Paul talks about it all the time.
Yep.
And our dollar is going to crash.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
And it's going to be horrible. And every day that time gets closer. None of us know when it's going to be.
As we continue to ignore it, not only does it get closer, but the catastrophic results get greater.
Oh yeah. And then what else is going to absolutely take place? An attack from within of all the horrible people that were invited into our country by the Biden administration. Some of them were already here. Some of them were already sneaking in, especially during the Obama administration. And then Trump, they were a little bit leery of him and they slowed down a little bit. And then during the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands
they went berserk
into America. Our enemies. Okay. And some of these people are being caught right now in Minnesota. But this was facilitated by extremely powerful people in politics and other positions in finance and other parts of our society. And every church in this country has been infiltrated by the enemy, by the secret combinations.
There's no doubt about
single church. Okay?
And organization, for that matter. Any large organization is, in the same kind of situation as well, sadly. And we're not here to attack organizations, but we are here to call out and expose secret combinations. So when we go to Washington, we're going to do just that. They want to destroy the office of sheriff in the great state of Washington. They want to change sheriffs from being elected to appointed. That's one big issue, because again, it depends on who the sheriff works for. If you're elected, you work for the people that elected you. If you're appointed, you work for bureaucrats and professional do-gooders in government. But what they really want to do is they want to turn Washington State into what's that northeast state that doesn't have sheriffs? It's
Connecticut.
They want to turn Washington State into Connecticut. It's really the ground zero for this discussion, because if they get it done in Washington, then they'll just move to the next liberal state, right?
Yeah, they will. And that's what really scares me. And it worries me that some of the sheriffs in other states aren't getting more involved with this. Because if Washington wins, if Washington State wins and can get the sheriffs under their control and under their thumb and appointed or completely voted out like Connecticut did, that's really where they're headed. But if you have appointed sheriffs, it's the same as getting them out of the state entirely like Connecticut did. So it makes them powerless and meaningless to the cause of liberty regarding the American people and their civil rights. Because
it really comes down to who they have their allegiance to, the elected, the people that elected them, we the people, or some bureaucrat. That's one discussion. It's critical. The other discussion, too, though, is as they try to codify the office of sheriff in state constitutions, and et cetera, what they want to do is limit the scope and authority of the executive branch at the local level. On one hand, at the general level, they want to expand the executive branch big time. But at the local level, what they want to do is basically restrict it to where they become just paper pushers, right? Or maybe we serve something, or we do this or that. They don't have any real law enforcement authority. That's where they're going.
Yeah, it is. And it's really scary, because look at the Attorney General in Washington State. He's all for this. He's pushing this. He's suing sheriffs for helping with deportation. Now, look, I'm not taking sides on what sheriffs have to do. It's up to the sheriff. And Tom Homan, when I talked to him about it, he agreed totally that no one can force the sheriff to do it or not do it. But that's exactly what the AG is doing in Washington.
What the AG wants is the sheriffs to impede the delegated authority to the general government, impede with that. And Tom Homan should be arresting those people.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's Homan's jurisdiction and his proper sphere of authority, though, to do that necessarily, but it could be in some instances. But somebody in the state should be, absolutely. But the problem is Washington State is the big violator here. And yes, Mr. Mack is going to Washington with Mr. Bushman and Mr. Gillies. And we're going into the belly of the beast. We recognize that. We've said that all along. This is ground zero for destroying the office of sheriff and creating a very woke communistic government that Seattle is very hell-bent on doing. And that there's people in reasonable and reasonably intelligent people in Washington, and specifically Seattle, that are all for this. Make us a communist government, just like Mom Donnie is doing in New York. And it might be too late to watch it unfold and then say, oh, it didn't work. Oh, yeah, like we don't have historical facts after facts after facts that communism does not work. And it won't. And it'll take, a dictator will take over, just as they all have done throughout world history, and then they start murdering their own people. And that is a fact. That is,
and we're gonna document this. General Flynn will be talking about 5th generation warfare a little bit and defending the office of the sheriff. There'll be several different sheriffs there highlighting the abuses that they've experienced at the hands of the Attorney General and the governor of the great state of Washington, Sheriff Bob Songer. Several other sheriffs will be there kind of highlighting this. This is a real treasure trove of solutions being brought to the great state of Washington as we go to Washington, ladies and gentlemen. All right, are you a fan of Shaquille O'Neal, Sheriff?
Yeah, I am actually. I think he's a class guy. I think he's a class act. And he was on, I believe he was on the posse way back when of Joe Arpaio right here in Maricopa County.
What we need to get a hold of Shaquille O'Neal, so see if he wants to attend our event. But the Henry County Sheriff's Office in the great state of Georgia has promoted Dr. Shaquille O'Neal to the Chief of Community Relations, Sheriff. Previously, O'Neal served as the Director of Community Outreach for 5 years, and his promotion was announced by Sheriff Reginald B. Scandret, I think is how you say it. Anyway, we'll talk about this more in seconds, though. This, I think, is pretty cool, and it shows community policing is vital. I think we need to see if Shaquille will come speak at our event. We'll talk about it. I'm Sam Bushman. The good sheriff's with me, Sheriff Richard Mack, CSPOA, back in seconds.
As the United States boldly stepped forward in the glorious light provided by its new Constitution in 1787, the nations of the earth were in awe of the newfound strength and hope of this free land. Today, the nation stands at a crossroads. A divergence from the original intent put forth in the United States Constitution has brought grave threats to our beloved nation. A miracle is needed if the United States is to survive. That miracle is again the pure application of the United States Constitution. I'm Scott Bradley. In my To Preserve the Nation book and lecture series, I bring forth truths that will help raise up a new generation of statesmen like those noble Americans who founded this land. Vigorous application of these principles will invigorate and restore the nation, and we may become again the freest, most prosperous, most respected, and happiest nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com to begin that restoration.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
We're talking about shacked and a fool, baby. Henry County, Georgia is the place, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, the Chief of Community Relations. Now, this is interesting. He previously served as the Director of Community Outreach for 5 years. I love this community policing stuff. They say Director O'Neal led the expansion of community programs, and I guess they documented over 370 community events, including providing 25,000 meals and 15,000 gifts for children. Henry County is located about 30 miles southeast of Atlanta, and O'Neal was first announced as the Director of, quote, Community Relations back in January 2020. He also actively participates in local initiatives, owning business venues in Atlanta, and maintaining a residence, I guess, in Texas and McDonough, Georgia. Anyway, a big shout out to Shaq And what I've decided is, you know how he does Shaq to the Fool? Are you familiar with this, Sheriff? He does all these basketball spoofs where people make mistakes, and it's kind of funny, and they laugh at their compadres. Okay, I think we ought to do Shaq to the Fool when it comes to criminals doing stupid stuff. What do you think if we talk about that to Shaq and then see if he can? How about this? Dr. Shaq goes to Washington, Sheriff.
Yeah, that Dr. Shaq, almost seems to be a takeoff on Dr. J, who really...
It is. Totally.
Who wasn't a doctor or a PhD either.
And neither is Shaq, yeah.
No, he's not. But
I've got to have Dr. Mack personally. They ought to make you an honorary doctorate.
Yeah. I've been called Brother Sheriff before, so might as well change it to Doctor. But
you're Elder Sheriff.
Think of it is, Shaq has a good personality. He has a great sense of humor. He did things even in basketball that proved that. He would dive into the crowd, and here he is sweating, and he's landing on all these ladies, and then he pats the lady on the head and tells her thanks, and he's
he's he
fun.
used to run people over on the court, but other than that, hey,
he's charismatic. He loves people, and I'm going to call that sheriff and see if we can get a hold of Shaq and get him to Washington. Dr. Shaq goes to Washington. That would be huge advertising for us.
Let's go. Anyway, I just thought it was very cool. It would bring back, it's part of the American dream to have people like that attend and promote certain things. It's community policing, Sheriff, to the utmost for Shaq to come to our event. The involvement that he's had with children and the sheriff's posses, this all comes back to community policing, where you need to know the people who serve you. So that, you know what, when they pull you over, it's like, hey, Steve, I know I was going fast. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I'm going to give you a warning this time, buddy. Look, it's about safety on the roads. It's not about tickets. Have a wonderful day. Just be careful. Come on now. You know better than that. And cool discussions could happen in community policing, and that really is one of the serious efforts of the CSPOA. Sheriff?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he would love the work we're doing, especially how we work with youth and families and civil rights. And civil rights is for all people. Freedom is for all people. I don't care what race you are. I don't care where you were born. I don't care who your daddy was. I don't care what church you go to or if you don't go to church at all. Freedom is for all people. There can be no exceptions. There can be no exemptions. And that includes Zionists, Jews, BLM, Antifa. I don't care.
Even racists are allowed to come.
If you're breaking the law, you should answer to the law, and that includes politicians. But otherwise, everyone is allowed freedom. But the rule is you can't hurt anyone else.
Yeah, don't hurt me, don't take my stuff, the great Michael Badnarik used to say, and boy, howdy, is he spot on that. I will say this, one last thing on this, too. Look, if you're a racist, we'll try to help you not become, or stay one. We'll help you change. Right. If you aren't Christian, we'll try to teach you about Christianity. If you're, I can keep going, right? And it doesn't mean we're hostile to anything else. We just want you to learn about the Founding Fathers and what gave them great success. And we can all agree with the Christian creed of the Ten Commandments. Look, don't kill me, don't take my stuff, don't hurt me. I mean, that's basically Ten Commandments stuff, right? So whether you think it's a guideline from God or whether you just think it's great cultural, rules for civilized society, by all means. Quick deal, I guess, Investopedia is what it's called. Or Investopedia, I guess it's called. I haven't seen this. It's like a financial news site, Sheriff. And they say that achieving the American dream now requires $5 million over a lifetime, citing costs that have catastrophically increased, like homeownership, raising children, etc. This data comes from a survey of about 1,263 adults based on this financial journalism site. They did this report. They say the lifetime cost for these components break down as follows. Retirement, they say, is the most expensive. You need $1.6 million for that, Sheriff. They say followed by home ownership, $957,000, almost $1 million. Owning a new car, they say, at $900,000. Why you say that much? Because you got to buy car after car after car for your whole adult life. This is your, your whole life, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so if you've bought 10 cars at $50,000, that's $500,000, right? Now, I think their numbers are way out in the sky. They say raising 2 children. By the way, I've raised 8, and Sheriff Mack has raised what, 5?
Yes.
5. They say raising 2 children and covering their college expenses. I don't believe in covering my kids' college expenses, by the way.
Right.
They say at $876,000. Healthcare costs at $414,000. Yearly vacations, $180,000 through your whole life. Remember, pet ownership at $40,000. Having a wedding, $38,000. These costs total $5,043,323. Sheriff. They say the biggest rise in cost previous years are new cars and houses. Anyway, all I'm telling you is, if they can say that. Now, let me just do one more calculation, then I want to turn it over to you, Sheriff. If I do $5 million, how many years do you think you work? Should we say 40, 45?
Yeah, 40, 45. It's probably higher for me because
I know, but let's just say 45 on the average because people can't retire like they used to, right? Yeah. All right, here it is. If it costs $5 million over your life and you work for 45 years, you have to make $111,000 a year just to break even on that reality. Now, I've raised 8 kids, and I'm telling you right now, I've done it on nowhere close to $5 million.
Yeah.
How about you, Sheriff? Do you think it's $5 million?
We had a dog for a while, but only probably my son kept a dog. Jimmy kept a dog. So I would say Don and I only had a dog for maybe 20 years of the 50 that we've been married. And so that would be a lot less for us. We paid very little for their college. Only one graduated with a bachelor's degree, though, and a master's, and that was Lucy. But Mandy went to college to become a physical therapist, and that was, I believe, only 2 years. Josh went maybe a couple of years. Rich has a degree. But he used to work at University of Phoenix, and he got his degree there. And Jimmy went to maybe, I think, a semester of college. He tried to play football for Eastern Arizona College, where I played football. And we're not paying for their college. We did have a savings account for each one of them, but it wasn't enough to cover that. It was enough to give them a bounce when they got married, and if they wanted to go to college. But they've had to finance that themselves, and I had to finance my own college. My dad gave me a little bounce for that. But then with us, you have to add missions, which are pretty expensive. But I think that's way too high, and I think it can be.
So take 45 years times $75,000, which I think is a pretty good, realistic income for more people. I know some people are rich, but if you do 45 times 75,000, you get $3,300,000. I think that's a whole lot more realistic in terms of what most people's reality is and will be. And the sad part is it's buying less and less and less. Now, Donald Trump trying to change that. I don't know if he'll have time to do that or not, but our prayers are that, hey, something can happen because we hope for the next generation. I mean, it's 5 million today and 8 million tomorrow and 10 million. I mean, it's stripping our children and our grandchildren's ability. Each generation for the last 100 years has lost ground, Sheriff, and that's a reality that's not avoidable, and it directly tracks with the Federal Reserve fake money system.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I worry about that. I worry about not being able to retire because I don't have a retirement. I have Social Security, and then I have a very small payment from the 6 years I taught school. And that's very minimal. That's not even $500 a month. And so we're not prepared. And a friend of mine said once, "Why can't you retire? That's poor planning." And I said, yeah, getting into politics is really poor planning because there's no real retirement there unless you're in over 15 years or 20 years. And which I wasn't. And so my livelihood is based on CS2A now. So,
yeah, it's really easy if you work for a government entity or something like that, where you have a 403B program and they put tons of money. Hey, it's easy to do really well. It's very hard when you're self-employed and or you work in the Patriot movement to develop the retirement that you hope for. Even when you have things that get geared towards retirement, oftentimes they're literally stripped from you before you can ever see the light of day. And I hope that doesn't happen to Social Security, but I think the good sheriff will, continue to get his. By the time it comes for me, I just hope it's even there for that matter. All I'm telling you is very strange, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm telling you right now, I raised 8 kids, 4 times as many kids as they're talking about, on about half the money probably. Just saying. All right, for the good sheriff, we'll be in Washington. We'd love to see you there the 9th and 10th of January, 2026, CSPOA.org. God save our republic.